Hey there, Starseeds! Welcome to Beyond the Cosmic Table. We're a group of friends from different cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs. We gather around our table and initiate honest and open conversations on how energy and frequencies influence what we create around us. By expanding awareness, we're able to journey with practical guidance, leading to our highest awareness and conscious living. So, take a seat and join us at our table. In this episode, Avani joins me while I share about my journey, where my awakening started, how I took ownership of my own happiness, and really focused on doing the inner work to clear the way to a more joyful, fulfilling life. Okay, so I figured I would start off where I think my awakening started, which was about 2007. And back then I had purchased the book, The Secret. I have no recollection of where I heard of it, how I knew of it, but I picked it up and I read it. And certainly love the idea of manifesting and the law of attraction, but I don't think I was fully grasping on to the concept because I was trying and it wasn't working. So I shelved that book, and but the idea was still there. The seed was definitely planted. And then fast forward to around 2011, 2012, I once again, don't know how I came across it, but found the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and I read it. And even at that time, I don't think I recognized how much it was resonating with me, but it was. It was really waking me up to more. And so even more seeds were planted then. And at that time, I had gone through a divorce. I was single at the time, dating, and about 2012, I had met someone, and we decided to get into a committed relationship, which eventually, a couple of years later, landed us in a home together. So we moved in together, and it wasn't long after that, I was just feeling unhappy and unfulfilled. And so I started feeling depressed, which I had experienced in other times throughout my life. So I was familiar with the feeling, not to throw a label on it, but it was how I described it at the time. And so I had hit a point where I felt the need to talk to him. So we sat down one night and basically I pointed the finger at him and made him responsible for my happiness. I was pretty much complaining to him about how we had just moved in together and I think things just weren't going as I expected. And he was not one to argue. He was very calm and just listened and was nice about it. But at the end of listening to me, he just said to me, you know what? I'm not responsible for your happiness. You're responsible for your happiness. And I just remember when he said that, I was pretty pissed. At that time, I was putting my happiness on him. So some time passed and it took a while, but eventually I realized that that is exactly what I needed to hear. And that for sure is what got the ball rolling. And so I think that's just where I began to look at myself. You know, I was a little overweight. I wasn't feeling good about myself physically, mentally, emotionally. And I had gone through phases in my life where I focused on my health, working out and taking care of myself. There's been other times where I've just let myself go, which was what was going on during this time. And I just knew, you know, I'm not a happy person. When I have too much weight on me, when I'm not taking care of my health, it just doesn't feel good.
Do you think that the times when you've let yourself go versus when you focused on your health, did that affect your mood? So, you know, when you let yourself go, that was kind of like a more difficult time for you versus when you've taken yourself, you felt more, you know, more healthier, happier, your mood has changed.
Yeah, so I decided to focus on my health because I reflected back on times when I was happier. And that was when I was exercising more. There was a time when I was training for a half marathon and I was really taking care of my health and I felt the best I ever had. So going back and thinking about when were the happiest times of my life? Well, it was really when I was taking care of myself, exercising and eating better. And so I decided to go down that path. I started, working out and watching my nutrition. And then one day through social media, I stumbled upon Beachbody, which is like a online wellness community type thing. And to make a very long story short with that, I ended up getting very into it, and I decided to become a coach, which is an opportunity within that company to help other people on their fitness journey. And so I wanted to do that. I knew that doing that would hold me accountable to my own health goals, as well as give me a sense of purpose by helping others with their health goals. And so I felt like I was really doing something that mattered. And the best part is I was meeting like-minded people, which was huge because prior to that, I was spending a lot of my time with friends that really weren't focused on their health in the way I wanted to be focused on my health. So I just realized that I wanted more. So being surrounded by like-minded people who were really focused on taking care of themselves and personal growth, Beachbody really pushed personal development and would recommend all these different books. And so I started reading personal growth books, which then led me into spiritual growth books. And I remember the first book that I picked up that was more spiritual was The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. And that book was pivotal in the direction that I took at that point. And so I was reading that book, and at the time, a friend of mine I was spending a lot of time with, she was going through a rough patch, and I had recommended that book to her. And so that opened her eyes. And so then we started really sharing about our experiences with what we learned through that book and how we were applying it to our life. And I mean, we were talking every single day. We both started meditating and really just started opening up to the whole metaphysical side of things. And that was really exciting for me. But then as time went on, I was just feeling like I needed more. Whatever was going on, I had this, feeling inside of me like there's more, I need more. And it's interesting how universe works because I then learned about Jamie, and I learned about her through my coach at the time. She had a reading with her, and we were having a conversation about it one day, and she strongly recommended that I get a reading. So I went home that night, went online, and I looked, and I booked a reading, and I had this reading, and I had never had a reading before, so it was really cool. And it was only supposed to be 30 minutes, and it ended up being, I think, an hour and a half. I mean, she really took the time, which was so awesome, to really explain everything, She brought up some things about my life that were just so on point. I mean, I was blown away. But more importantly, I learned what my soul's intention was and all kinds of interesting information I was never aware of prior to this. We talked about the soul group I was from, my dominant energy center, my chakras, where I was currently blocked, all these cool things that I had never heard of before. So it opened me up to this whole new world, and I was lit up. This is cool. And at the time, my son, who was, I think Danny was 18 at the time, he was working for a company that introduced him to the concept of manifesting, ironically enough. And I was really getting the feeling that he would be open to more of the metaphysical. So I had asked Jamie at the end of the call, I shared about Danny, and I asked her, how can I help guide him, with looking more into this type of stuff? So she tapped in about Danny, and she came back and she said, he really doesn't need you. He's actually, I think she said he's a rainbow child or a rainbow seed or indigo, something like that. I can't remember what she called him, but she said he has this. You can be a support for him, but he honestly has this. And so I said, do you think he would benefit from having a reading with you? And she said, sure. So I talked to my son about it, and he was totally interested. And so he had a reading with her a couple weeks later. And his reading was just as amazing, actually more amazing. She shared what was ahead for him. And now, oh my gosh, 2 years later, it has completely come to fruition. And he's in an amazing spot. And it's truly incredible. You have these readings and just things at the time don't seem to either make sense or seem fathomable, but man, you can look back and just really be in awe after the fact to see where things can go with what you learn in these readings. So it was that really that just propelled me more into the journey. And she had mentioned to me at the end of that call about meeting at Abby's house. She mentioned that there was a group of friends that met weekly and would talk about spirituality and metaphysics and how they would practice honing in on their skills and would share about their gifts. And she shared the stories of how, they healed themselves, how Diane healed herself and Abby. And she said she didn't go every week, but that the next time that she went, she would let me know and reach out to me and that I could join. And I was super excited about that. So that was in April of 2018. And so I have my reading and Danny has his reading, and I continue to share with my friend, and my friend and I meet every day. And she even started her own little group at her house too, which didn't end up panning out. But I definitely knew that was the direction I wanted to go, that I needed a tribe. I mean, I was thinking about that invitation Jamie extended that day to meet the group, and it was just on my mind all the time since then. So fast forward about 6 months, I never heard back from her. So I decided to reach out to her again. I knew I wanted another reading, so I decided to just reach out and, let her know that I was going to book another reading, but also to remind her of the invitation and about meeting the group. And so she said, yeah. So she planned a brief meetup so I could meet Abby before heading to the Thursday night group. So the three of us ended up meeting like 2 days later at Starbucks. And through that visit, Abby learned about me and my background. And then she also shared what she knew via numbers because she's a numerologist. She shared what she knew about me through my birth date and my astrology sign and all that. And yeah, it was, we hit it off. It was a really great meetup. So I was invited to then join the next day at her house for Thursday group.
And before you came, Jamie had said that a woman and her son are going to be coming. So I think it was almost like very natural that it would be you and your son.
Yeah. And she didn't know who at first. I believe she shared that with all you before she even met me or Danny. I think she even thought at the time it was like she was thinking when it was a mother and child. At first, she thought it might be her and her son. But then, yeah, it ended up being Danny and me. And Danny didn't come right away. It was just me for the first several weeks. And then I ended up inviting him. And then he started joining us too, which was so cool. But so yeah, my first night with the group, it was just a few of you actually. Not a lot of you could make it that night. So I think it was just Jamie, Abby, Diane, and me. And so I got there about 5:30 and I was there till midnight. So going back to when you shared about how you joined the table and that time warp, it's definitely a time warp. The time just flew. Like there's no way I felt like I was there that many hours, but it was so great. And I just remember leaving that first time at the table on a complete high. And it's been amazing ever since. I mean, every Thursday, that is what I looked forward to. It was just food for my soul, sitting around the table and just having these conversations and learning so much. I was a sponge and I just soaked it all up. And I've just been flying ever since.
How has life changed for you since you joined the table?
Well, when I first joined, I was, in a situation where I was living with that boyfriend at the time that I mentioned earlier and not in the happiest place in that relationship. Again, he was a wonderful person and we got along great, but I just knew that it wasn't a fulfilling relationship for me. And I just knew it wasn't going to be forever. But at the same time, I was also very comfortable because we got along and he was such a great person and I loved our home. I was very, very comfortable there and I felt very safe. But I knew I had that feeling, that knowing inside that that's not where I belonged. And so there was a lot of conversation around that table at group, many, many Thursday nights, sharing about my stuckness, like I felt like I needed out, but I also came up with every excuse in the world of why I shouldn't leave. And it was all coming from a place of fear and not wanting to leave my comfort zone. And at that time, Arizona had been calling me for a long time. And aside from, the beautiful climate and sunshine pretty much every day of the year, I knew that there was more to why I wanted to move here. I didn't know what it was. I just had a knowing. It was just, it's so weird. It's hard to describe. And so when I started talking about that around the table, confirmation started coming in from my guides through Jamie that Arizona was where I belonged. It was where I was going to really start to do the inner work. So a lot of that time, a good year, you all did your best to encourage me to be brave enough to do what I needed to do to get myself here. So yeah, so much has changed where I live. I've been in Arizona for 10 months now. And it's been wild. It's been amazing. And I was so scared to come here. And, Abby joined me. I think, she was so great. She knew I was scared to do this huge move, move away from my family. The only home I ever knew, my son, of course, 1,800 miles away. But I had to trust. So, yeah. And everything's changed too within me, my perspective, my trusting my intuition, my inner guidance, spending quiet time meditating, doing automatic writing, which is really where I got a lot of guidance. A lot came through, a lot. And often I would receive the guidance that didn't quite make sense at the time, but it was all written in my journal. And so now I look back at some of the stuff that I journaled a year and a half ago, and I didn't even know what I was writing back then at the time. I would do the automatic writing, which was really my higher self coming through. And, afterwards I would read it and some of it would make sense, or some of it I'd question like, well, how the heck's that going to happen? And I look back now on all of that because I have my journal so I can read what I wrote, and it all makes sense now. It all makes sense. And so I always want to encourage anyone on this journey to journal, because you may not know the information that you're getting at the time, and it may not make sense at the time, but it will make sense eventually. So now I've been super focused on just taking care of my health and wellness, being active, moving my body, eating for my health, more mindset work, connecting, all the inner work. Lots of inner work lately, the shadow work as they call it, what causes the triggers, the blocks. I have lots of blocks, and that comes from the programming and conditioning throughout this life, and not just this lifetime, but past lifetimes too, as I learned through doing a past life regression with you. And also visiting past lives in my own meditations and connecting the dots and putting that all together. I have a lot of stuff that I need to work through still. The lower themes of consciousness and connecting the dots to the things that had happened in my life, thoughts and beliefs and self-limiting beliefs that are blocking me from moving forward with what I want to do.
Well, what I'm hearing from you though, even just in these few years from that one time in your relationship where you were looking and blaming externally, and you've really changed and come to your own and started thinking these are just external factors, but what does that bring out of me inside, internally?
Right. Because I've come to learn now that everything is happening for me, not to me. It's all a learning experience, an opportunity to grow. And this is what expansion is all about. We do it through these relationships that we have and through the hardships and all the things that are thrown at us, where before, I would see myself as a victim. Why is this happening to me? Why is this person behaving this way? Now I can look at it and know that this is all happening for me to learn, for me to grow, for me to clear something. And I love it.
And it's very empowering, right? Because now you know that it's within your own control and you don't have to wait for somebody outside of you to help with it.
Yeah, it's super empowering, and everything is in my control with how I respond to it. I'm not reacting, I'm responding with awareness of what's going on and how, I choose to respond and see things. It's a choice. I know now it's a choice. And, I've heard that all the time. It's not really a new concept to me, but now it's a knowing. It's like the light switch has been turned on, and once it's on, you can't turn it off. And I live every moment of every day now knowing that everything that I experience is for a reason. I may not always figure it out, but it's kind of fun trying. And I just trust that there is always something for me to learn from whatever I am experiencing. And if it's something really challenging or difficult, it makes it less painful to see it through those eyes. If I'm being challenged by something, rather than feeling like I'm a victim of whatever situation is going on, I'm now able to see it as an opportunity to learn something, to understand that it's teaching me something in the process, whether it's patience, compassion, something I need to clear within myself, an opportunity to give myself love, seeing where I'm judging myself or judging others. Simple little hangups that happen, as silly as it is. I'll look at a silly hangup where before I used to brush it off as just a nuisance or an annoyance, or depending on what it was, I'd lose my shit. And I'll look at it now and wonder what it means. And often I'll figure out what that means. And a lot of times it has to do with patience, because I used to be a very impatient and intolerant person. So I feel like even the littlest things, traffic holding me up or road construction, just the littlest things that used to irritate me and I would get upset about. Now, it's just a reminder, like, okay, be patient. You're not in a rush. You have nowhere to go. Everything's happening in divine timing, you know?
It's cool how you can see these themes, right? Like you said, it's these themes of consciousness that you've brought, whether it's from different lifetimes or even things in this lifetime. You're able to really see that there's specific themes that you continue to run across in this life. And then you're just continuing to peel those different layers.
Yes. And I love peeling back the layers. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of it has been very exhausting. I've spent a lot of time doing that dark shadow work, So while I'm in the process of the shadow, it's really difficult. But when you shed light on it, when you're able to bring it into the light, the next level, once that layer is peeled and gone, it's, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even have a word to describe the feeling of it. It's a major buzz. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, I'll just get this overwhelming feeling come up. And now that I know that happens through the dark stuff, once I get past it all, now I know for the next time. Because the shadow work is ongoing. It's never ending. We have infinite numbers of layers to peel back and heal. And I know that, the next time that something comes up, I know that I'll come out the other side feeling so much lighter and happier.
And it's really exciting to see that in you. I mean, I've seen you change in the last 2 years that I've known you, and you are more empowered. You're more focused. You know where you want to go. And you bring so much to the table just from, your perspective. And I know you love to read, and so you bring us, so many little tidbits and nuggets of information from all of the reading that you do. So I really appreciate, everything that you bring, because I learn so much from you, and just, like just even your energy. Like, I've seen you in some of your tough times, but then when Kim is like vibing high, like that energy is infectious. So, well, what's next for you?
I think the question most everyone wants to know or asks is, what's my purpose? I know that I asked that, or thought that. So through all of my reading and listening to different people in the spiritual community over the years and talking about their purpose, their dharma, what they're meant to do, I have an understanding now that our overall purpose in this lifetime is just to experience joy. And I don't know about you, but I used to think my purpose would also be my career. And for many it is, but for many it's not. But I still feel for me it will be. Right now, I work in corporate America, and while it's where I've been since I graduated high school, and I've been with the same company for 20 years. Once again, very comfortable, seemingly safe, but it does not bring me joy. Not the joy I know I can have and deserve through the work that I can do with the things that I'm passionate about, which is everything that I talked about today. So I started to really look at all of that and what work would bring me that joy. And I reflect back on myself, the Kim of 8, 10, 15 years ago. That Kim needed somebody like me, who I am today. I know there's a lot of people like that Kim that need me, who I am today. The person that recognized what needed to happen, did the work, is still doing the work. So I've been working on what that would look like in terms of a career change. I mean, we all struggle, every single one of us, on some level. Some to a very extreme degree, and some just a little, and everything in between. But it all matters. All of our struggles matter. And we all, it's everyone's ultimate goal to just be happy, to just be joyful. That's what we're here for. That's our whole purpose of being here, right? So it's about getting through the struggles and to get to that place of joy, and to try to live in that place of joy as much as humanly possible, right? And so I just want to share that with people. I want to share my journey and what I work through and how I came out on the other side, and how I'm still working and expanding even more, and will continue to. I'll share what I've come up with through everything that I've learned, the mind, body, spirit connection, your mindset, having an attitude of gratitude, appreciating the things that you already have, the experiences that you have already had that have already brought you joy. How can you invite more amazing things into your life if you're not grateful for what you already have? So it's all about that. And then how we take care of our body has everything to do with how we feel. I mean, you can tap into 5D consciousness, but you need to take care of your 3D body. It's what carries us around. And if we're, going back to what I talked about in the beginning of this podcast about how I felt I didn't feel good when I wasn't taking care of myself. I mean, that's how it shows up. So it's all mental and physical. And if I'm not taking care of, my body, that's going to show up in all the other areas. So movement, I move my body every day, and I eat for my body, because we're all bio-individual, and what may be healthy for one person might not be healthy for another person. So understanding that. So when I got my brain wrapped around that whole thing, the whole bio-individuality in terms of health and wellness, I started seeking education for that, because I wanted to really be informed, not just for myself, but so I can share it more. Not just share my own experiences and feelings around it, but really understand the functions and what's going on inside our bodies. So I enrolled in a functional nutrition certification program. I am so excited about it. I've been in it for 2 weeks and it's already so fascinating. But yeah, I want to know what's going on in there, the gut brain connection and how what we put in our bodies matters on every level. And then the spiritual work, sharing that as well. So that's where I'm headed with it. And so it's the inner work practice, right? It's not something you figure out one day. It's never one and done. It's a practice. It's like building a muscle, but you're building it in all areas and strengthening that muscle on a consistent basis through doing the work. And so that's my envision for my work, to help others. I'm still very much in the development process. And like I said, working on the education, continuing my own inner work, and really getting ready to bring it out to the world to help others that resonate with it, resonate with me. And I think I can really help guide people in their journey to experience a more joyful life because I'm an example of it. I am proof that, if you do the work, you really do experience a more joyful, fulfilling life. So I get excited thinking of helping others understand and connecting it all and putting those pieces together on how to connect the mind, body, and spirit.
If someone is interested in learning more about you or, the things that you're talking about, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, I'm in the process of developing my website and my social media platform, so I haven't really started anything on there yet, but I did create an account.
What's your social media handle?
The Inner Work Practice is my handle. So yeah, just Instagram for now. I don't know if I'll end up on Facebook at some point, probably, but that's where I can be found right now.
Well, I am so excited for your new venture and to see where you're headed next and how you really build that business and that practice of serving people very holistically through functional nutrition and, the mind, body, and spirit connection. Keep us posted on how you progress as your business develops and you continue to learn.
Of course. I'm so excited. Well, thank you for sitting with me today. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in. I enjoyed sharing about my own journey. And like everyone else in our tribe, we're all just giving a little intro to where we came from, how we ended up at the table, and where we're headed. So this was my story. If you enjoyed this podcast and you're listening from Apple Podcasts, please hit subscribe. Also, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, leave a review. It would be really helpful to know that you're enjoying this, and we appreciate you so much. And we're also on Instagram if you want to go find us there at Beyond the Cosmic Table, where we share more behind the scenes of us as a tribe.